What's going up, traders and investors? I hope you guys are all having a fantastic day today. We're going to be talking about the top 5 marijuana stocks here. So, if you guys know, pretty much the past couple of weeks, we've had this huge boom of marijuana stocks, such as like TLRY, I believe is the stock ticker name. We can pull it up here though. But this stock just had an unusual amount of volume and a ton of people looking at it. So TLRY, I believe the stock was, and this thing went from $20 all the way up to 300. This huge move. And as you guys know, the stock just immediately got rejected and fell back to that kind of support level at around $100 and then popped back up to, now it's at like 140. So, it is very volatile. I would not recommend you guys buying a stock such as this yet. Maybe let's wait, something a little more better, I would say, right now, because it just recently released their IPO, a couple weeks ago here. And this stock, if you look at the RSI, this stock literally was overvalued for an entire week, and it still pushed back up. I did not trade any of this when it hopped over this mark. I did trade it in here, but as it pushed over, it became too risky, too volatile. Everybody was trading it, and when everybody's in it, you kind of want to step back because that's where people lose their shirt and everything goes bad. So I, took my profits, got out, and then I pretty much just watched it crash. Within one day, it was trading at 246, and then finish up the day at like 150. That is crazy for a stock, but a lot of people made a lot of money. I like to trade smart. I don't really like to trade stocks that everybody is trading, just because it's very risky and it's hard to get in and out of trades if you're a trader. But all right, so let's hop into the top 5 marijuana stocks here. So the first one here is, let's pull it up here, is OGRMF. So this stock may be a cheaper stock for those of you with small accounts. It was recently trading at around 212 and just had this slow increase all the way up. Let's go to our trend line here. Well, you guys can look at the SMA line. As you guys can see, it's pretty much just on a very nice upward trend. It may be a little overvalued right now just because it popped over that SMA line, and every time it does, it pops up and then falls back down below it, pops back up, falls back down below it, pop back up. So most likely it's going to start to fall back down below it. And yes, that might be at like the $5.20 to $5 mark, somewhere in that range. But if you're an investor looking for something long term, yes, I do see this stock maybe pushing up to $20 or $30 here within, maybe 6 months to a year, just because of how hot this sector has been. And it's been a phenomenal year for weed and marijuana stocks. So, I feel like this one has a very good possibility. I'm not saying 100% this thing is going to go up. But if you just look at the year chart, that's what we're looking at here, I believe. Yeah, 1 day, 1 year. It has just been on a slow uptrend. And that's, as traders, that's what you want. And it's making 2% moves a day right now just because of all the pressure on it. But once we get this pop back down to around that, like I said, that, $5 area, in that range, we could make a possibly trade as it breaks through, and then we could set another alert here. So we can do that. It's a very easy concept here. But so I believe this stock has some room to possibly push up within the next couple of months. Next one here is CNTTF. This one is another kind of a cheaper stock here. Recently trading at 350, was its lowest, pushed all the way up to 1040, and it is kind of consolidating right now, but it overall has a slow upward trend. it recently, I believe, had their IPO. We can go to a later time here. Let's go 3 year. I don't think. Oh, okay. So this is the 3 year chart. It looks like it had a low of 169. Now it's at 10. So we still are up on this upward trend, which is very nice, but it is a little bit of a riskier play just because it first has a previous resistance, at this 1040 or 1010 area. And as you guys can see, it's having a very hard time breaking over that mark. Over this, it's having very having some trouble here. So what we're going to do is we're going to set an alert here, and that's very simple. You left click, and then you go down and you create alert down here, and then this little price thing comes up, and now you can put in the price you want. We're going to do above, so when it hits above this mark, that's when we're going to get notified here. So and then we're going to click create, and then it should pop up right here. So as the stock pushes back up, we should have a little bit of a resistant breakout, and we should be able to hop into this thing on the long side. But one thing you got to be aware of is that this stock right now is a little overvalued, so we might be able to actually get a little bit of a pullback down to the maybe to the $7 area, or possibly even down to the 5. But you can definitely make some trades just from here if it pops back down, just because if there's a previous resistance at around 494, and you can really make some good trades from that. So there's two scenarios here. We have a resistant breakout, a fade back down, and another pop back up. So that's what I'm going to look for. It's very simple. It's not too complicated here. Looks like my green screen's having some trouble. There's a little white thing on it, but alright, I think that should be a little better. I'm not sure what's going on. Alright, sorry about that, guys. Alright, so let's hop in. Let's get back into this here. So, this one's a very good possibility. It's going to go up just because of how hot the sector's been. Alright, next one here is KSHB, another cheaper stock. So this is the, what is this? The 3 year? Yeah, 3 year weekly chart here. And, you guys can really see the amount of hype that this stock has had. It literally went from $2 all the way back up to, almost $9. But look on the weekly chart. This was really pushed here, went from 2 all the way up to 10, and then shot right back down and fell like a rock, and then fell even more to around 70 cents. And now it's up at 6. And maybe, I think we probably should get a little bit of a push up here, maybe to 650 in that ballpark, and then possibly fall back down to this SMA line right here. So for long-term investors, this stock could have a very good possibility of going up. I was just looking at news at it, and this is a a strong company. They are small right now, but they do have possibility of pushing up. So maybe to buy a couple of shares here and to see if it can push up would be a smart move here, because even if it falls down, it's a cheap stock. The risk involved. So, but just be careful is pretty much what I'm trying to say, because there are multiple resistance levels on this if you're going to trade it. But if you're going to look at long term, yeah, I see the weed sector going up just because of the demand for it right now, and it has a very, very good possibility of pushing up here. So let's look at another one here. I think this could possibly push up to 650 right now and then fall back down to that SMA line. But let's look at all right, this one's one of my favorites right here, CGC. It's a little more pricey, but we do have this very, very nice upward trend here. Maybe a little flag out here, possibly another gap back up if it breaks over that 21.87 area. But 3 years ago, this stock was trading at $1.34. If you would have taken $1,000 and put this into it, let's see what you would have had. And let's say you're holding holding it continue. So you'd be up around 2,000% within 3 years. So if you would have put $1,000 into this, you would have had around what would that be? 25,000, something like that. I don't know, a ridiculous number, just because of how cheap the stock was and how it's upwards of almost $60 right now. This is why investing is critical. But if you guys look at this long-term SMA line, look how strong this thing is for using it as a support level. So each time it's tapped it immediately pushes up, consolidates, almost taps it, gets bought right back up, and now it's way over it. So now we should have a little bit of a pullback for multiple reasons here. The RSI indicates that it is overvalued, so we should get a little bit of a pullback, even down to this $40 area would be ideal, because then the SMA line could push up, and then it could use that as almost as another resistant point to get some more buyers in the market. But if you're looking at this as long term, kind of like we are, and we're also doing some trade opportunities here, this has a very nice upward trend. Like I said, I see this stock maybe pushing to $100, but you always got to be cautious with these because they are a little more expensive, and it is a little bit of a riskier sector, but the reward is a lot larger, as you guys can see. So, you always just got to be careful with any kind of investing, because each time you invest money, you have some sort of risk, and it just helps you manage your risk if you know kind of what you're doing, where your support levels are, resistant levels are, possibly where it could push. Possibly the stock could push all the way up to, $58, but the downside, it could fall all the way back down, to this $34 to $40 area. So is that risk really worth it as a trader? But if you're long term, it most likely will bounce, and you won't even worry about it. So yeah, so this one's a very good stock here. I'm super mad I missed it. This whole beautiful trend up. Congrats to anyone who has shares of this. If that bought at $1 or $2 or $3 or $4 or $5, that's good for you guys. All right, so next one here's a little more riskier stock. It's more expensive. This one is STZ. This one's around that 228 area, I believe. Yeah, 228. But look at this stock here. It is a little bit doing a consolidation mark, but I feel each time it's broken under this SMA line, it gets bought up like crazy. So it fell right down below it. So now we're going to get a push back up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, let's look to see if this thing can break out of the resistance, because look what happened when it broke out of this resistance here. Over in this area, it bought up like crazy. So that's what we're going to do, because always history tends to repeat itself here. It's just I don't want to be overvalued. If this stock is pushing up and shows sign of any sort of reversal, I'm going to leave this alone. But as a investor, you could look at this and say, okay, upward trend here. It's averaging, it's averaging around 68% in 3 years. So that's pretty decent here. And I would always be careful, like always, but you could definitely make some money as this for a trader and a long-term investor, because it is that slowly uptrend. And as a trader, you could definitely kill it with this stock here as a resistant breakout, because that's what it has previously done. So, I believe that's all the stocks here that we are looking at, but these are pretty much the top 5 stocks in the marijuana sector. It's a very hot sector. Stocks pushing up from 20 to 300 within 4 or 5 days is very, very unlikely. So if you're looking for something like that, then I would definitely do not invest your money in these, because 90%, 99.99% of these stocks that I called out will not do that, because some of them are are a little too expensive here. But we like those slow stocks for those long-term investors. And then we also do have some cheaper stocks for you guys to see if it can get a push back up to maybe that $100 mark. That would be something very, very cool. But, so that's it, though. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Please sure to like, subscribe if you're new, comment if you are currently looking to buy marijuana stocks. So that's it, though. Remember to always stay happy, stay positive. And if you guys want to join my trading and investing group chat here, I post all of my watch list each morning here, stocks that I'm looking at, my gappers. It's a fantastic environment. I will leave that in the description for you guys. Remember to always stay happy, stay positive. I already said that, but take care, guys, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of the week.